shadows creep, whispers echo where secrets sleep. I wander through these empty streets, searching for light where hope meets. But in the silence, a spark ignites, a flicker of dreams in the endless nights. Oh, I'll rise like the dawn, breaking through the pain. Every scar tells a story, every tear a refrain. With every heartbeat I'm drawing near, in the midst of despair I'll conquer my fear. Find the light, don't lose your way. Hope will guide you, come what may. Through the storms that rage inside, I'll dance in the rain, let the troubles slide. With every step I'm reclaiming my voice. In the chaos, I'm making my choice. As thunder rolls, I won't back down. In the depths of night, I'll wear my crown. Oh, I'll rise like the dawn, breaking through the pain. Every scar tells a story, every tear a refrain. With every heartbeat I'm drawing near, in the midst of despair I'll conquer my fear. And when the world feels heavy, like a storm that never ends, I'll find a melody where my heart mends. Oh, I'll rise like the dawn, breaking through the pain.
All right, everybody. I hope you guys are doing very, very well. I'm doing pretty good. I was a little bit not feeling well today, but I'm doing okay right now. So, Vicki Carpenter, welcome. Good to see you. And in the bushes, good to see you. Sreecia, Vicki, Opinionated 778, good to see you. Good. And those of you lurking in the darkness, welcome. Thank you for being here. Well, I'm a little conflicted. You know how that goes, right? You want to kind of, I don't know, stand up for what's right, but then you don't want to find yourself in any trouble. So better to find a way to just present factual information and no white knighting and move on from there, right, April? Okay, so that is what we are going to do. We are going to just present some facts. How's that? There is some curious, there are some very curious discussions that are really hard to understand about Adam Cox. And it's bizarre, to just put it frankly. It's very bizarre. Now, you've heard that old you've heard that saying in true crime, you can indict a ham sandwich. Well, that involves a grand jury and attorneys and detectives. I wonder what you could convince people of on social media. If a grand jury can be misled and tricked into indicting a ham sandwich, what kind of bad things, what sorts of no good, awful, very bad opinions could be developed and spread in social media. And it does seem to be that that is what is happening, that there are some very curious, unusual people that are looking at Adam Cox and they're seeing something nefarious in his answers on the stand. And I think it is so odd, right? So let's start here, okay? And I'm talking about from a just knowing people, right? Just understanding patterns of behavior within families, understanding birth order, understanding the influences of personality disorders, understanding the influence of a narcissistic mother on all of her children, the effects of being a scapegoated child in a narcissistic family. If I just sort of look at that whole kit and caboodle in the basket, then maybe I can make a few statements here about Adam Cox and the Cox family, Adam, Alex, Summer, Lori. Narcissistic families are very manipulative. And the narcissist is provided a great deal of power and control that, they don't rightly deserve, right? They're ruling from a position of fear and power. They use ostracization and lies to get other members in the family to go along with whatever their stupid little plan might be. And the effect of the siblings within these families is many of them live in a constant state of confusion. And depending upon how histrionic the narcissistic mother may be, some of those kids may get manipulated into becoming almost like parent figures to the narcissistic mother, where it becomes their job to be the caretaker. So the narcissistic mom who's high in histrionics, she may manipulate people and cause people to be hurt, but then she cries and wails and wrings her hands and threatens suicide or threatens to disown you or threatens to write you out of the will as a way to control the other siblings in the family. And then there's a lot of subterfuge, right? So the narcissistic parent will, and the other spouse, who is very often part of the team because they've been manipulated by the narcissistic parent as well. And so that spouse is just bending over backwards and doing whatever they can to keep the narcissistic mother in check or calm, not controlling her, but trying to keep her relaxed and calm so bad things don't happen. And the net effect is that you can have an entire family that is revolving around this one narcissist who is just constantly manipulating and misleading and controlling and betraying. It can be a family of origin that has a narcissistic mother can be a real place of danger for a lot of those siblings. It is one of the reasons why you find a lot of siblings of the golden child and the scapegoat who just check out. Like there may not be like a big meltdown fight. Oh, this family's crazy, I'm leaving. That's not usually the way. Usually the way is to quietly recede into the bushes, unnoticed preferably, and then you don't answer the phone when they call. And you try to make your own life away from the chaos that is your family of origin, right? And maybe the only people that you stay in contact with are the family members that are like you, the family members that look around and go, you know what? Our family is really crazy. Like, we really have a crazy family. Our mother is truly batshit crazy. And look at the lies that our mother has told all of us, pitting each of us against the other sibling. So to be a kid in a narcissistic family, meaning one of the parents has narcissism, it is not for the faint of heart. And the more siblings there are, the more likely that you're going to have some siblings that are going to fade into the woodwork, hoping that it's not noticed so they can go out and live life somewhere else away from the chaos, right? Now, the golden child, the scapegoat, the flying monkeys, those people have very real, well-defined roles, and they have a really tough time escaping the narcissistic parent. If you think it's easy to be the scapegoat in a narcissistic family and that you will be allowed to fade quietly away, you would be seriously mistaken. You want to know why? Because the scapegoat is probably realistically the most powerful role within that family. They don't feel powerful. In fact, they feel fairly well beat down, diminished, unloved, ridiculed. The scapegoat does not have an easy time of it, not at all. For example, I don't know why is my battery dying when it is plugged into the wall. Hold on, y'all. I'm having Houston, we have a problem. Did that fix it? Hold on. Please show me my settings. Weird. Okay. Not working. Why is that not working? That is frustrating, isn't it? I'll keep my eye on it. It is at 29%, which is really odd. It came on, it said it was the battery was almost dead, showed that it was unplugged while indeed it was plugged in. I've got everything now plugged in. All right, all that looks normal. Oh, I do not need computer problems this week, I can promise you. So I'm going to keep a very, okay, now I'm at 28. Okay, I am losing power. Why? Power buttons, controls. Okay, what the hell, man? Okay, that is the right. That's the right battery. Let me try. I'm going to move it to a different controller. Hold on. Okay. Energy saver on. Battery 27%. Ooh. I think that other plug that I was in for some reason went out. My goodness. I am so sorry. Okay. My apologies, but something happened to the plug because when I moved it to the bottom plug. Yeah, that's what I did, Trishy. Yep. That is, I wonder why it went out. It's been working, but okay, no problems here. I'm going to tell you, Trish, I was scared that it was my battery on my computer, and I am working out of a hotel room. So that was not going to be a good for this week. Yeah, but it's fine now. I don't know. Okay, I mean, I moved it to a different plug and now it's plugging. I mean, it's charging. Okay, back on track. So it is not for the to be the scapegoat in the family, even though the scapegoat is really, really demoralized. I mean, the scapegoat can be, they can be very angry, right? Rightfully so. And so, when you're working with people that are scapegoated and, they're just weary, right? You guys know this. They reach a point in their lives where they're just so tired of trying to be treated with just normality, right? Just to be nice. But instead, what happens within the family structure is that anytime something goes wrong, there's a disaster, the especially if the golden child or their offspring have created that problem, then the scapegoated mother can't tolerate that something negative would reflect upon the golden child. The golden child is her embodiment, right? The golden child she's living vicariously through the golden child, and therefore, to get her narcissistic supply reached, that golden child has to perform in some way that the narcissistic mother really, really values. And each narcissistic mother values something different. Sometimes it's money and accomplishment, business. Sometimes it's athletics and sports. Sometimes it's raw beauty. Sometimes education. So they, let's say that the scapegoated mom, the narcissistic mother really, really values athletic ability or athletic accomplishment. And they push to get the golden child to perform. And then they will even lie to themselves that person was much more accomplished than they actually were. And then they find out that their little golden glowing child, is smoking marijuana, gets arrested for dealing drugs, something like that. Well, the narcissistic mother can't tolerate that the gold not shining as brightly. And so in her twisted, weird little mind, she turns it back to the scapegoat going, why didn't you tell me? It's your fault that his problem was growing to that level that he started dealing drugs. You should have known. It was your job to tell me. It was your job to keep me and your dad informed about how screwed up your brother is. And it's all your fault. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the golden boy doesn't even get questioned. He just gets, here we go, honey. Let's go get you a good lawyer. You're going to need that. And I'm just so sorry that your sister didn't help you get help when you first started using drugs. Now, that sounds crazy to a normal person. And yet, people living in these families, have I just described to you a very real situation. So this absolutely does happen. And you can imagine where, if you're the sister in this hypothetical narcissistic family, you can see where there would come a point where that sister may say, okay, done, tired of being blamed for things that I have absolutely no control of, no knowledge of, I know nothing. And then that scapegoat tries to get away from the family, the narcissistic family. Guess what happens? They get attacked. Yes, the brother's keeper complex. Yes. The scapegoat tries to, strike out on their own, make their own place in the world, live on their own 2 feet, and they are even further demonized for abandoning the loving mother. So, and there's a hell to pay for that. So living with a narcissistic mother and the varying roles that are all developed and groomed to support the delusions of the narcissist, including the role of the spouse, it is a wearisome life. It is awful. And scapegoats that do manage to get away, they will very often spend their lives just looking for peace. That's all they're looking for. They just want peace. They're weary of all the blame falling on their shoulders. They're weary of working, trying to get some recognition, trying to get some love, trying to get that spark, that gleam of pride in the parent's eye that is never pointed at the scapegoat. Regardless, the scapegoat can get an MD. The scapegoat can earn a PhD. The scapegoat can play for the NFL. If you are the scapegoat, you will never get that gleam in the narcissist eyes. You will never get that love or that pat on the back from the narcissistic father. They are not capable of seeing you in any other light than the scapegoat, the person whose job it is to shoulder all of the blame, right? So when I hear people attacking Adam Cox, well, I get my feathers ruffled. Kind of pisses me off a bit. One of the reasons that it makes me really angry is you don't know this man's family influence on his life. We do have some pretty good, there are some pretty good, very public interviews and such that it is a safe statement to say that listening to Lori Vallow's mom, her sister, some of the extended family, the way that they are describing interactions within that family would be consistent with a family that had a known narcissistic mother, right? That even the relationship between the mom and dad would mirror what we know about that family pattern type. Not saying they are, just saying that it would be consistent with that type of family. So if Adam changes his mind, and I'm being kind here to the woman that is the woman that is stirring this really ugly pot. This ugly pot, and if you're the woman, please stop what you're doing. You're creating a real issue here that you don't understand. I like to judge people by their actions. You know what I mean? Because anyone can talk a good game, but it's real hard for people to take ownership if they're not willing to stand on their own 2 feet and do the hard stuff. And Adam Cox stood on his 2 feet and did the hard stuff, the real hard stuff, like telling his crazy family to go jump in the lake by abandoning the very people that I believe, in my opinion, empowered Lori to be Lori. And Adam had the courage, seems to have been the only one in his family to show the courage. Not Summer didn't show that courage. Alex damn sure didn't show the courage. Mommy Janice, well, don't even get me started on her. Adam stood on his own 2 feet and stated his truth. And Zach, his son, stood on his own 2 feet and stated his truth and reflected on the love, the relationship that he had with Tylee. And I think that you are in very bad form choosing to go after this person when the amount of evidence for the wider family is devastating. And I don't know, maybe you formed a friendship with Summer. Maybe you've aligned yourself with Janice behind the scenes. I mean, I don't know what's happening. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. But here's all I need to know. Would we agree that the prosecutor, Trina K, would we agree that Trina K has all of the discovery? If you agree that the prosecutor in this case prosecuting Lori Vallow for the death of Charles, would you agree that she has all of the discovery? Put a 1. The other part of that is if prosecutor K has all of the discovery, don't you think that she would notice a pattern that might make her choose not to put Adam Cox up on the stand lest he say something that would hurt the prosecution of this monster? Do you see my point? So it would be sheer unadulterated stupidity to have information in discovery that reflects that maybe Adam was, what did you say? Adam was doing reconnaissance for the Cox family. Adam was going and lying to Charles to get information and then running back to Janice and the rest of the family to tell them what Charles was planning. Absurd. You are so short-sighted if you believe that Trina K, one of the best prosecutors in this country, if you believe she would be that foolish that she could look at telephone calls, text messages, she could see exactly how Adam was communicating with various family members, and you think that Trina K would say, we're going to put him up on the witness stand. We may not be able to trust him, but we're going to put him up there. Oh, come on. This is the biggest case that Trina K has ever tried. This is going to put her face on newspapers all across the world. Of course, she is not going to take any chances like that. And the fact that anybody is that a creator is even promoting that is just so difficult to make sense of. It is so difficult to understand. All right. So that's one of the reasons that I wanted to go back, rewind back in time, and go to the Jason Lum interview of Zach Cox, Adam Cox's son. Why do I want to do that? Because this is from a kid, young adult. Oh, and I see people. This was horrible too. Oh my gosh, the same group of people. It's horrible. Well, where was Zach's mother? What kind of person just lets their child run around and live all over the place? Didn't he have anyone that loved him? Didn't he have anyone that liked him? Well, I don't know what it's like at your family, but my family, if my niece or her boyfriend or my other niece and her fiance, husband, if they call me and they say, Aunt Karen, can I come stay at your house? I'd be like, of course, you know where everything is. Come on in. And it wouldn't matter if I was there or not. I wouldn't care. They're like my kids in terms of my commitment to them. They called me and said, I need some money. I'd say, oh my God, okay, how much you need? What happened? Can I help you? Right? And I'm sure that you guys have the same kind of family structure. So for me, I lived with my mama and papa for, I don't know, a couple of years. I also lived in my house. It's just that my mom and dad's house was really far out in the country. My mama and papa were closer to the school. So they were also closer to where I was keeping my horses. So it was just, I just liked being with my mama. It was closer to everything. And yeah, that's what I did. And nobody cared. It wasn't a rift in the family. It's just, we're just close, right? We're just close. So, and the same exact thing, my daughter actually went and lived with my little brother and his wife and daughters, went and lived with them for maybe, I think it was about, maybe it was like 4 or 5 months, because we were living out of state and she had been accepted to Texas A&M. And so she needed to be in state to try to get in-state tuition faster, right? So she wouldn't be paying the high exorbitant out-of-state tuition. So she went and lived with them a while and she got a job, and then it was time to start college, and no harm, no foul. My kids living with my little brother, I felt as safe. Them living with me or them living with he and his wife, all the same. Safe family, loving family, great people. And equally his kids with me. We're good friends, right? So, I'm not disturbed that a young man, Zach Cox, he is trying to go to school, work a job. He's just at that transition age between graduating high school, starting his own young adult life, and Charles Vallow, Lori, the grandparents, they were all just there to help the family kids. And that is very natural and very normal. All right. Now I'm going to be quiet so we can learn from Adam Cox's son, Zach Cox. It was an interview that was done a couple of years ago by Jason Lum on Fox 10.
Do I need to hit continue here?
I'm recording to the cloud right now, so we're good to go.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Zach Cox, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I've never gotten to talk to you on the record, but we've always been in touch. Yep. And just so people know, Zach, you are Lori Vallow's nephew.
Correct. Yep. I am Adam Cox's son, her brother.
So Charles Vallow was Uncle Charles to you.
Yep.
Tylee Ryan was like a sister.
Yep.
JJ Vallow was like your little brother.
Lori was like a second mom.
And you lived with them.
I lived with them January 2018 to about May of 2018, and then I went back home for the summer and came back to Arizona September-ish of 2018 and lived with Lori until about January of 2019 when things really picked up and snapped off with Charles.
So that's huge. I really, of course, want to get your reaction on the.
Okay, so is anybody weirded out about this fact that Zach, Adam's child, from January 2018 to May, he goes and he lives in Arizona, and then he goes home, and then he comes back and lives there again. And some of that time he's with Lori and Charles And he really, really likes Charles, right? Charles was athletic. Zach is athletic. They had a lot in common. Everything was great. And then sometimes he'd be over at his grandma and grandpa's. Lori's mom and dad, Janice and whatever Mr. Cox's name is, right? So there's nothing weird here. And yet it was presented as weird. And people were saying, oh, doesn't he? What poor little dear doesn't have a mom. It's so horrible. Why didn't he have a foundation? Because he graduated from high school and he's a young adult and he's looking for his place. It is not weird at all for college age kids to go, they're in school, then they're going to work, and then they go back to school, and then they change colleges. In fact, it's the norm for most college students today in 2025 to change their majors 7 times before they graduate. Nothing weird here. This is as stereotypically middle class, normal as it comes. Truly, it is. There's nothing nefarious in Zach going to Lori and Charles, Aunt Lori and Uncle Charles, or going to Janice's house, grandmom. There's nothing weird about that, y'all. There's nothing weird about that.
Case, the death investigation with Charles Vallow, and now obviously everyone knows that Chandler PD has submitted their case for one charge of conspiracy to commit murder to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. So it's up to MCAO to actually charge her, but this is huge for Charles. But we're going to go all the way back to, I just want you to tell me what 2018 to 2019 was like. You saw the change in her. And that date, 2018, October 2018 specifically, the 26th, when she met Chad Daybell in Utah for preparing the people, that's when prosecutors saying this is when it began for them. You really saw how everything unfolded in the household. Just take me back to that and how she was acting.
Now, they were making a big deal about, oh, something happened in 2018. What could it have been? Oh, something happened to cause this, that, and the other, right? That's what we're acting. And they included the death of Joe Ryan, which was in 2018, April, I believe. Look, you can't, you ever looked around the room in the dark? You can convince yourself that you see monsters, ghosts, spirits all around the room just because your eyes play tricks on you. Your brain has a hard time discerning shape, and so it kind of gets freaked out and it starts trying to invent form. And so it's a weird experience. Same thing can happen, though, if you get all caught up in a bunch of conspiracy theory and you can begin to convince yourself that an orange jelly bean has some sort of mythical, magical, mystical meaning to your conspiracy. No, it's just a damn jelly bean that someone overlooked. That's all it is. It means nothing. But you can convince yourself that it's somehow, some important link or something. Lori did it all the time. So what do you think is more likely to affect Adam? Do you think it's more likely to affect Adam that Lori, his sister, that his child is living with, that his sister Lori is married to his friend Charles, that she goes off the deep end, meets Chad Daybell, and somehow believes that she's been married 70 other lives? Or that an old husband of Lori's from 10 years ago dies? which one do you think has the most power to legitimately, in Adam's world, make him alter his behavior? I'm going to 100% go with Lori gets a boyfriend and loses her mind because his son was living with crazy lady Lori, right? To me, the thing, quotation marks, the thing that happened in 2018, far more likely to have been the Chad Daybell hookup, the formation of the 7 gatherers, Jason Mao. That is more likely to disrupt Adam and make him uncomfortable than finding out that a old husband of Lori's dies. You do remember she had like 5 or 6 husbands, right? That wasn't unusual for Lori to have some kind of news about an old husband. But when your kid is living with Lori and Lori's lost her mind, that's enough to motivate a parent to do something. Man.
Yeah, so for me, it was 2017. They had just moved to Arizona from Hawaii. And I went out there with Colby and my dad for spring break. And they were all gone one day. Like everyone in the family went to do something or go see a movie. And I kind of hung out at the house with Lori. And she started talking about all these books that she's been reading. Chad Daybell books. I forgot what this other book was called, but it's really controversial in the LDS Church for the beliefs. I'm trying to remember what it is. I'll say it if it
that would
pops
be
up.
Visions of Glory. And I'm an academic and I love books, even books that may be horrible. The one time you will see me advocating for the burning of a book, that would be for Visions of Glory. Let's just say no one should be reading that nonsense. It seems to have an awful lot of bad stuff connected to the people that read Visions of Glory.
And talking about Julie Rose podcast and listening to those things. And
another crazy.
She said some scary stuff that I was sitting there with JJ and one of my other cousins. And to me, I was, I think 17, 18. She was saying, if you watch an R-rated movie or say a bad word, there's always an evil spirit that's screaming in your face, like encouraging it. And I was on my phone like, wow, that's crazy. So, time goes on. I move in with them and start working in Arizona. And she spent a lot of time at the temple. Charles would go on trips, so I'd help with JJ for business. So I'd help watch JJ, hang out with Tylee.
Listen to that description. Lori is teaching the kids in the house that there's evil spirits screaming in your face if you watch a bad movie. And she doesn't have to sleep. She doesn't have to eat or poop because she's a biblical character with magic. When Charles travels for work, Zach stayed there to take care of JJ and to hang out with Tylee. You know what that sounds like to me? Sounds like to me, Lori was not very trustworthy. It sounds like to me that everyone knew that Lori had lost her mind. That's what it sounds like to me. I'm going to pose the question again because this video is about Adam Cox and the people that are somehow reading nefarious things into the way that Adam Cox answered his questions on the witness stand. It's bizarre. I'm going to ask you again. What do you think had more power in 2018 to affect Adam and his family? That Lori was telling people that she would no longer poop, She no longer had to sleep because she was like the biblical characters. And his son was living there to take care of JJ and Ty Lee while Charles was off making money to pay the entire Cox cell phone bills. Or that one of Lori's many husbands died. Which one do you think had more power to affect Adam and even the rest of his family?
She'd be at the temple for about 8 hours a day, like a full-time job sometimes. And I think on Thursdays, she actually did work at the temple in Gilbert. So a lot of the changes I saw was she started to, like if we were driving in the car, instead of listening to the radio or music, it would be a Julie Rowe podcast. Or I forgot his name, maybe Mike Stroud had a podcast, a lot of really religious outside of the church podcasts. So she was always listening to something from these beliefs. And change-wise, because I had talked to Charles about it, because she was telling us that she never had to eat again, never had to go to the bathroom, that she was invincible. When she was saying these things, it was towards January of 2019 when she had kicked Charles out of the house. That's when I had left, and that's when she was saying those things mostly.
And I would be willing to bet that part of Zach leaving is that Zach's mom and dad said, okay, things have gotten too weird. This is not feeling good. And I don't know, this is really worrisome. One of the reasons that I speculate on that is this. Adam's wife did an interview and they were talking about the gunshot with Brandon Boudreaux. She was saying in that interview that Lori was actually mailing to them books, these books, and she was mailing them prepper food. Like they were just hanging out. They didn't even really ever talk to Lori or anything. And then they just get a box full of prepper food, like MRE stuff. And Lori, the wife would call Lori and be like, yeah, Lori, this is real nice, but we don't need this, and please don't send any more. Okay, imagine how far gone you are if you're because one box of that prepper food can be like $200, $250 for just a few weeks or a month. Maybe it's a month of food. So she's just buying this damn prepper food and sending it to people. They're not even asking for it. Same thing with the books. She's buying these books or getting the Daybell books or whatever, or Visions of Glory she mailed to Adam Cox's family. Imagine how far gone you've got to be to do that. Like, even though, like, I love these pretzels called Dots pretzels. The honey mustard flavor is so yummy. I would never buy a bag of Dots pretzels and just randomly send them to one of my family members. I mean, at the very least, I might say, oh my God, you got to try these pretzels. They're amazing. I'll send you a bag. All right, I might do that. But to just do it with no heads up, hey, you got some pretzels on the way? So you go out to your mailbox to get your mail, and you've got this box full of prepper food, religious books. You don't even know where the hell it came from. Think about that. You got to be pretty damn far gone to be acting that way, right?
That was late January 2019, and we see the body camera footage.
Yeah.
And Charles is, pleading with Gilbert PD because he wanted her mentally evaluated, and all his stuff was gone. We know that story.
Just horrible.
That was the day.
It was hard. It was hard for you though, and a lot of people have questions about this. He was contacting you, he was contacting Tyler. What was he saying, and why was that difficult for you? What were you doing?
So January, I can't remember the day. I was really
Probably
upset.
the 30th. Around, I think the
It was
30th.
around, yeah, it was the very end of January. I know that
Yeah.
because we had just moved into that house at January 1st. We were only in that new house for about a month. Lori had told me that Charles was dead and there was a zombie living in him, and she was really manipulative about some things before that with Charles, with the entire family.
Oh my
So
God.
the entire family's cutting Charles off. She sends this text. Me and Charles are in a big fight. If he calls you, don't answer. So everyone in my family listened to that and instantly sided with Lori because Lori was saying that he was having an affair. So come that day, she tells me that he's a zombie, he's dead. There's someone living inside him named Ned Schneider. And this is the day that it kind of snapped for me. Because previously I had discussed this with Charles. And I said, you know, this was before really everything happened. But I was like, what do you believe? Because he had asked me too. I mean, do you believe the things Lori's saying? And I was like, well, I don't. I don't want you to get mad if you believe him. And he said,
Okay. I want to put something in perspective as you problem solve through this, right? They were only in that new house like 1 month, right? Do you know that Lori met Chad Daybell in October of 2018? We're only talking about like 3 to 4 months before she is outright doing the craziest things, all in an effort to be in Rexburg, to be Chad's bride. Please do not tell me that Lori was normal during 2018. It can't be. I stand by my previous assertions. I don't think that Lori was delusional and having like a brief psychotic episode. I think Lori is dealing with a terrible personality disorder, a big personality disorder. And that when she met Chad Daybell and saw others believed him, she witnessed other people who thought that he had special magic powers. That was her train to narcissistic supply. She said, this is my dude. This is the guy who's going to make me special, like my daddy always promised me that I would be.
I don't believe him. But, you know, it makes her happy. She's taking care of JJ. She's making dinner. Like, she was living a regular life believing these things. And at the time, obviously, you know, she ended up hurting others and hurting herself, but none of us knew it would get this big. And we just said, you know, she's not hurting anyone. She's not hurting herself, like, for believing these things. It's, you know, if anyone believes anything, whether it be politics, religion, sports, you know, it was her belief and it wasn't affecting us. So he said, you know, just nod your head and keep her happy, because she was happy, and they were happy until that October where she had met Chad, where, according to those documents, is really when everything started to plan out.
That Charles is saying, just leave her alone. She's doing better. She's happy. Okay, I'm going to ask the question. What the hell was she like before January of 2019? What was she like in 2018? Kay Woodcock's, Charles Vallow, Kay Woodcock's mom died in, I believe it was March of 2018, I think. That was also about around the time that Joe Ryan died. Lori did not go with her husband to his mom's funeral. Imagine that. And this family was really close. They traveled to Lake Charles all the time to visit. The fact that she didn't go is pretty curious, but I don't read into that. Well, how do I say this? I think she was having a lot of depression, right? Based on based on the way Zach talks about Lori during the 2018-2019 timeframe, I think she just said, I can't go. I don't want to go. Or maybe she did do something to Joe Ryan. I have a feeling she may have. The question is, why would she have done that to him? Charles is making plenty of money. Charles is making a lot of money. So do I think she would do it? Sure. For money, maybe. But then the question is, well, why would she need the money? Well, I guess that's one way to help take care of Tylee, right? It's just curious, but maybe she did. Maybe she did. Maybe they were still in contact together. Maybe nobody's told that part of the story sufficiently to know. But just regardless, if we factor out the Joe Ryan death that occurred just weeks after Lori's mother-in-law died, if we just leave all that out and we just listen to Zach's description, it's pretty easy to see Lori was not doing well. Charles was not doing well. There were some problems. Adam's wife is saying she's sending us these bizarre books. We're getting these weird food packages in the mail for no reason. I would tell her, don't send us anymore. And she just turn around and keep sending it. She apparently had just boxes and boxes and boxes of MREs stacked up in the garage in the house for the end of days. That she was buddied up with Melanie Gibb during this time before she ever met Chad Daybell. So everybody wants to say, oh, Melanie Gibb is innocent. She did nothing wrong. Are you sure? Because when the night that Charles Vallow finally gets home to Arizona after his flight ticket was canceled, his truck was stolen, the locks on his house were replaced. When he finally gets there, guess who's there? Jason Mao. Jason Mao and Melanie Gibb. Imagine that. How crazy is that? Right? And Jason Mao worked security. You can't make this up. You just can't make this up. It's so crazy. Jason Mao was working security on this little C-rated movie that they made where children turned into zombies and killed the parents. Boom. Booyah. That's it. How do you not see that connection? So that is not enough to convict Jason Mao of accessory to murder or part of the conspiracy or anything like that. It's not enough. But I tell you what it is. It is damn sure enough to make your eyebrow go up. It is absolutely enough to make you pretend to be Scooby-Doo. What? It's crazy. And I actually rented. Well, actually, I think I bought that movie so I could watch it. I literally bought it so I could watch it. And it has teenagers, kids, turning into zombies who's trying to kill all of the Christian adults in the village. It's unbelievable. So why is Jason Mao right around the corner from Charles Vallow as his life is crashing down around him? And Melanie Gibb is there. Now, Melanie says that she was there because Lori had her go there, right? So before Chad Daybell, you've already got Lori messed up with Melanie Gibb, Jason Mao, these other 7 gatherer visions of glory people before she meets Chad Daybell. And Chad Daybell, at the same time that Lori's walking around telling people, I'm not ever going to eat again. I don't have to poop. I'm a translated being. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. Chad Daybell is up in Rexburg praying over the internet connection. Well, imagine this. Pretend that when my power cord stopped charging my computer, imagine if I said, oh, please, all, let's pray over my power cord as I'm unplugging the cord and moving it into a different outlet. Oh, look, our prayers are answered. You're not a Christian. You're not going to sit around and go, oh, let me pray for a better internet connection. And if you are that kind of Christian, well, I got a preacher for you. One of these preachers that, what do they believe? They believe in praying for riches and wealth. I have a little bit of trouble with that. I think God is kind of busy. And I don't think it's up to God whether I make enough money to feed my family. I think God, blessed me with intelligence, and it's up to me whether I want to work hard and translate that into dollars. I don't think it's up to God to decide whether I have money or not. And I know that goes against some people. The Lord will provide. But are we sure that's what that means? Oh, please, God, I want to drive a red Audi. Okay, my child, here's your red Audi. I don't think it works that way. I just don't. I'm more of the belief that we have a rule book, right? That's bestowed upon us by our supreme being. And that rule book says, be kind to others, go out in the world, good deeds, right? Good works is what it's about. It's not about me sitting there and praying for selfish items of carnal bodily lust. It's just not like that. It's one of the problems I have with Joel Osteen. I think Joel Osteen is a great inspirational speaker, right? He's a good speaker, but does he really align with biblical principles? I mean, your fifth mansion, your third DC-9 plane, maybe you got enough, Joel. And it's not just him. His surgeon brother sold his business, no longer a surgeon, because he can make more money counting money for his brother, Joel Osteen. True story. That's absolutely 100% accurate. Not kidding. So I do, religion is a wonderful thing. Religion, church, it does great things in the community. People develop identity. It provides a place for belonging. It provides important affiliation and self-definition. The children that grow up in the church, they're taught love one another, be kind, they sing songs, they go on trips together. All of these things are admirable, good things, and it contributes to the identity of the neighborhood. It's not bad unless things go off the rails. Unless you get a Chad Daybell who's standing in front of you every weekend. And there are churches that have gone off the rails. What about the dude that seems like he killed his wife in the swamp, right? It's a horrible, horrible nightmare. So I don't think we can bash all religion, but I think we have to be grounded, and we can't fear saying, hey, I think our preacher's having a little bit of trouble, and I'm not comfortable with what they've started teaching. People that are religious leaders, they're provided a lot of unchecked power over our individual lives. And I think it takes someone really healthy and powerful to stand up and call a spade and say, what you're teaching is not helping us. It's not supporting our community. Bad things are happening in our community, and we need to know why. So Lori going to temple for 8 hours a day. Why didn't someone at temple notice? What people have said, that's not normal. That if you go to temple, it's usually like once or twice a year. It's not 8 hours a day. Why was she doing that? And more important, why didn't anyone notice? The people that were actually working there, why didn't anyone notice? And what did Charles say? Leave her alone. She's doing good. She's happy. She's cooking. Leave it alone. That sounds like to me there had been a period of time where she was much worse off. And now at least she seems like she's excited or, kind of coming out of whatever had been bothering her. We don't know. That's just conjecture. But so we have Lori meeting Chad Daybell October 2018. And then Lori moves in August of 2019. So you go from October, 9 months later now, you've killed your husband. You damn near killed Brandon Boudreaux, your niece's husband. And you guys all load up together and take off all this within 9 months. Zach is living there. Charles is saying, help me out a little when I travel, kind of help out with JJ a little bit, hang out with Tylee. Then I'll be back as soon as I possibly can. Just don't worry about Lori. She's doing better. She's cooking. Just kind of keep an eye on things. Message me if anything happens. You go from that, where Charles is trying to balance his life and keep it all together. 9 months later, he's dead. Brandon Boudreaux's almost dead. And Melanie and Lori have packed everything up, and now they're up in Rexburg, along with the woman who came from Connecticut, who told her husband, I got to go to Rexburg. That's where it's all going down. That's where the 144,000s are going to be. I'm one of the 7 gatherers. Don't you know? Jason Mao told me. I would go right up to any Gilbert police officer there is and say, what the hell is wrong with you guys? Why aren't you arresting any of these people? Including Alex Cox, who had the gun. Why? Why? Who are these people? What the hell is going on in Rexburg or in Mesa, Gilbert, that you've got a group of almost, I'm going to be careful when I say this, almost FLDS. Like the way that they're behaving, the books that they're publishing, the online presence that they've developed. If you have studied Warren Jeffs and the FLDS mess that was going on down in Texas, if you have studied that, it is not too far of a cry to see the FLDS influences in Chad Daybell's writing, or even in some of the things that Melanie and Lori talked about. Now, I'm not talking about the Mormon church, okay? I'm saying specifically the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, Warren Jeffs, right? And listen how interesting this is. It's so crazy. FLDS is in Texas. It is in Arizona. And it's in Idaho. What? What in the hell? So this chick comes from Connecticut to Rexburg to be with the Chudster, because that's where they're going to build their temple of crystal or some crap. And when the 2 babies are found in Chad's property and all utter hell breaks loose, I'm going to say it, I'm going to own it, crazy lady who drags her husband from Connecticut across the country to Rexburg, Idaho? 2 children buried in the yard of the biggest goon gourd on the planet, like Elmer Fudd. And instead of this woman going, oh my goodness, what have I done? Please forgive me, husband. Please forgive me that I dragged you from Connecticut, from our home, our farm, where we had grown up and lived our whole lives. I dragged you out here to Idaho. I am so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. Chad Daybell is a crazy man. We're going home, babe. We're going home. We're going to join the Methodist Church or the Episcopalians. That's not what happened. You know what she did? She went to Arizona to live. That's right. Bought a house in Mesa. Right there to be cozy with Jason Mao, Melanie Gibb, the Seven Gatherers. Excuse me, law enforcement, are you paying attention? Can you see these people that Charles Vallow tried to warn you about and was later killed by? Are you paying attention? Do you give a shit? Texas, Idaho, Arizona. How do you ignore that? How do you ignore that? That's what I want to know. Here it is, right here. Where's it at? Looking for my article. Hold on. There it is. Share. There it is. Fundamentalist, the communities of the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints. Idaho, northern Arizona, and El Dorado, Texas. Does that strike anyone as particularly chummy? That you would be a crazy person in Connecticut saying, honey, we're going to move to Idaho to be with Chud because he's the next prophet. And when the children are found buried in his property, Lori Vallow, your goddess of the seven gatherers, you decide the right thing to do is then to move to Arizona, the other fundamentalist Latter-day Saint state? Really? This woman was chummy with Zulema. Let me remind you about Zulema. Zulema thought that it was perfectly okay to pray for a large earthquake that would kill tens of thousands of people. Does this strike anyone as particularly criminally insane, or is it just me? If someone came up to you and said, hey, I'm going to make you a deal. I'm going to make you a pharaoh. You know, like the lands of old, the dark, mysterious lands of Egypt. And you're going to live in palaces of gold and silver, encrusted with rubies and emeralds and sapphires. They will know you as Pharaoh. And all you got to do is conjure up, pray for the big one, the earthquake that is going to end civilization as we know it, where there's only going to be a couple of thousand people that survive, except for the 144,000, those of the firstborn will go into the mountains and live in their little white tent societies and talk to God through the burning bushes. That's all you got to do. Just got to pray for the destruction of mankind. And your rewards will be to live in a ruby encrusted golden palace, and the people will call you Pharaoh as they bow at your feet. Would you say, yeah, that sounds like a great deal? I love it, Chad. Thank you so much for bringing me in on this action. This is cool. Really? Would you do that? If you would be willing to pray for the destruction of tens. Y'all didn't see all that, did you? Add to the stage. Sorry. If you would be willing to do that, if you would be willing to pray for the destruction of mankind, also that you could be worshiped and rich and special, would you do it? If you would be willing to kill mankind so that you could be special, put a 1. If you're already special and you get your riches in the relationships that you have with others, put a 2. It's the most incredible thing that I've ever heard. This group of people are unbelievable. Apparently, April T., according to what she said on the witness stand, her husband is in Arizona with her. But hey, if you're a man in the FLDS, you're good. You're golden. Oh my gosh, it's just so hard to look. If you look at an entire map of the United States of America and you say, I wonder where the FLDS have set up shop after Warren Jeffs was arrested in Texas. There were 400 kids arrested. They blew that compound to smithereens. I don't mean they literally blew it up, but they arrested everybody. There's actually some women that still live there. If would out of 50 states, would you look at that and say, well, there's probably, maybe there's like some places in Kentucky, Alabama is a moderate climate. You could grow a lot of food. There's probably some places in Alabama. Would you say, well, just tell me everywhere that Lori Vallow has lived, and those will be where the FLDS are at? That's all you got to do. It's the damnest thing you ever heard of. And they are engaging in child sex trafficking 100%. Those in Texas, they absolutely did. Okay, so this is my point, and I know I'm kind of getting off the subject here, but that's, this is my point about Zach and Charles and Adam and what it was that they were confronted with. What it was that they were all trying to balance and live with. Lori was in contact with Melanie Gibb and Jason Mao, the 7 gatherers. She was in contact with them. They were doing these podcasts together. And this was in the early part of 2018, before she met the Chadster in October. Right? She had already been groomed. Jason Mao acted like the matchmaker between Chud and Lori. It really is incredible that the cops are not going after the 7 gatherers, the wider organization, Julie Rowe. Why aren't they going after them? Unless maybe they buy into some of this nonsense. I'm going to back this up a little bit. Wow. Huh. Oh, great. Golly, Jason Mal, I guess you forgot to tell the detectives all about that podcast, right? No, no, no. I've never been in Lori Vallow's house. Isn't that what you said? I think it is. What is wrong with this police department? Someone explain it to me, please. 4. Blame Melanie Good. Ugh, gross. Gross, gross, gross. Jason, please don't interrupt him. Let him talk. Jesus. And why didn't they do anything? Why didn't anyone do anything? If someone comes to me and says, I just want to let you know, my mom, she's been talking to Jesus. Like she goes in her room, she locks the door, she tells us not to, bang on the door, and we can hear her in there. She's just giggling and laughing, and she's just talking to Jesus. Okay, do you think I'm going to go, wow, that is an awesome experience? No, I'm going to say this poor woman is having some trouble. We need to get her some help. She doesn't have to be in this state. It's incredible. It's incredible.
And it would upset her that he would go tell other people that. So um, that's how. Yeah.
And wanted to bring you in or whoever would listen.
Right. Yeah. The thing about $100
Okay, there we go.
because he wanted me.
Sorry.
And it was about. They really believed it was a true story that this girl.
So Alex was really into it too, not just Lori.
Yeah,
Alex and Lori were both on the same wavelength with these books. They're always fans.
Yeah.
And wanted to bring you in or whoever would listen.
Right. Yeah. The thing about Alex too is mentally he was always off. Like he was a weird guy.
Yes.
And he was definitely easy to manipulate. And I think Lori knew that. And she was very manipulative. But he full-hearted believed these things. She had told Al that she talked to Jesus Christ face to face one time, and Al went and told his bishop that. And then his bishop was kind of like, that's kind of strange. That's an awesome experience, but I've never heard of someone saying that before. And Lori had gotten mad at Al about it because Al would go and say these things to other people that sounded crazy, which were crazy, and she knew that, and it would upset her that he would go tell it.
Thank you, Zach. There's another one of my supports for my position. Lori was not psychotic. Lori was not truly delusional. Lori knew that what was being said was crazy. She knew that it wasn't real. I'm convinced of that. But what was very real is her need for narcissistic supply was very, very powerful. And that when she went with Melanie Gibb, she was getting narcissistic supply from the religion, right? From the zealotry. When she went with Melanie Gibb and met Chad Daybell, then she sat in the audience and she watched the people around her who all had stars in their eyes. And they were experiencing religious fervor. They did believe the crazy stories that Chad Daybell was telling, and that he could see behind the veil, yada, yada, yada. And she watched this and said to herself, this is how I can be special. If I'm his wife, not only will they worship him, they will too worship me. And now, during the interview that she did, the jailhouse interview with Keith Morrison, you could see on her face that she was embarrassed about Chad. You could see it on her face when Keith Morrison started talking about zombies and she was dismissive and made bad jokes about it. You could see it. She knows that she was an idiot. She'll never say it. But here's what's going to happen for Lori. They'll finish this trial. They'll do the Brandon Boudreaux trial, and then she will go to prison, and no one will remember her. This is it for her. This is the end. What happens to her when she goes to sit in a cell alone, like 4 people in the pod with her, and there's no worship? There's no avenue to specialness. She's confronted with what she did. She will be forced to see herself, to take the mask off and know, I literally facilitated the death of my children. That's who I am. And I will never get into heaven. It's coming. She is right now in a type of form of purgatory, but hell yawns before her. Make no mistake about that. Now, the 7 gatherers, you guys are hearing me referring to the 7 gatherers. So the 7 gatherers are a group. It's the term that was used. So, okay, I don't even know where to start here. Jason Mao says to Lori, he meets her, he says spontaneously, I'm not sure I believe that, but that's what he says. He meets her spontaneously in the temple, and he says to her, right away, as soon as I saw you, I knew you were one of us, quote unquote. Lori, you are a gatherer of people's souls. Like, he's like totally blowing smoke up her behind, right? Well, later, after the death of Charles, Tammy, JJ, Tylee, as the investigation is unfolding in Idaho, it became clear that Lori was interconnected with this group of women that actually began, I think it began in Arizona, but they were all in the process of moving to Idaho for the end times. Like Chad was going to build this bullshit temple, blah, blah, blah. So the term, the 7 gatherers, it was representative of a group of women that Lori and Chad collected and groomed about their odd and bizarre religious beliefs and activities. The 7 gatherers were the women that came together, yes, in Arizona, to cast out evil spirits. They were even casting out evil spirits on a trip that they took to Oklahoma. So these 7 women, Zulema, Serena, they were praying for the death of people. Zulema was conjuring up earthquakes. They were casting out the demons of dark souls. And Lori says that once you are possessed by a dark soul and that soul leaves your body, then your earthly body dies and your spirit can then go on to heaven. So she's literally saying we're going to kill them, but that's the only way to save their mortal soul. These are the 7 gatherers, people. The lady that came from Connecticut was going to move to Idaho, but then they found the dead children. And so they decided to just go right straight to the Grand Temple in Arizona with Jason Mao. These are the 7. Melanie Gibb, Zelima Pastinis, Serena. Remember them? Christina. Christina said, no, wasn't me. I was only there twice. Are you sure, Christina? This group that is looking sideways at Adam Cox, your time would be better spent looking full on frontal at Christina Atwood. It's just incredible. So the group was organized. They got together. They shared this terrible secret. They were bound by these terrible secrets. They were praying for the death of human beings. They were praying for the death of mankind and the promise that they would be wealthy and important. They had the way they came to know, the way that the detectives came to know of this group of people, or women specifically, emails. There were emails in which they actually talked about rituals. They were meeting together, performing rituals. So the 7 gatherers were brought in for questioning in Idaho. But a lot of them were in Arizona. The Arizona police have done nothing with these 7 people, including Jason Mao. They've done nothing. It's a travesty, in my opinion.
Other people that. So that's how that really was. They had that dynamic of always, same thing with him. He was a truck driver. And instead of listening to
Kresha, correct me if you disagree with anything I've said about the 7 gatherers. These people, Melanie Gibb, Jason Mao, these were people that Lori was in contact with when she was quote unquote doing better before she ever met Chad Daybell. The heart of the dark influences that resulted in the death of 2 children and spouses, it wasn't the heart of it wasn't in Idaho. The heart of it was in Arizona. Gilbert. Yes, C-Star. The one and the same. Yes. Yes. It's really just horrible. Let's see. Remind me to share the blurb from the FOIA report. From the FOIA report about having to sacrifice a female to gain entrance into the Church of the Firstborn. Oh my God. Kresha, I have not seen that. Please, yes. Oops, let me go here. The only thing I disagree with is the FLDS thing. I mean, it sounds similar, and I get it. The mainstream church is behind these flukes. It maybe, and I absolutely defer to Kresha, because Kresha, the amount of research that she has done into the people that were around Chad and Lori that seemed to either facilitate their criminal activity or at the very least to sort of protect them from themselves, she has dug in deep, far, far deeper than I have. I'm looking at Lori and Chad and the direct influences that that we've learned from the investigations and the trials, right? And there is just simply no doubt, like none. Lori and Chad did not operate in a vacuum. And I don't think that Ruby Frankie did either. I think it's the same tale. I think that these were people that were very needy and weak on their own, and that they were in search of supply, narcissistic supply, and there was some group of power that embraced them and empowered them to move forward with their insanity. I really believe that. Too many connections to the upper echelon. Oh, it's just crazy. Yeah. Needs to be aired out regarding the blurb in the FOIA report. Hey, let's talk about it. I'm there. I would not, at this point, so I've been investigating the midnight, what is it? The midnight, my brain is tired. I've been talking for an hour and a half. Midnight Productions. I have been investigating this notion of Midnight Productions, Arizona, yada, yada. And all I can think, Kresha, as I watch this thing unfold with Lori and the connections with Julie Rowe and Jason Mao and all the others, the way that the Gilbert Police Department treated Charles, did nothing, even though he's begging and pleading, and then a week later he's dead. Why are the cops not acting? Why aren't they? And what's going on in Gilbert that you have very wealthy kids or kids from very wealthy families that have now begun to almost be engaged in like gang type of activity? They're very violent. They're targeting others, but they're wealthy kids. The families, the parents are of substance and position. Why would these kids be so, they're in the church, they're churchgoers. Why are they being allowed to basically run rampant like Lord of the Flies, and no one at home or the church is trying to interfere with them? Why? For Gilbert to be such a small place, the amount of degeneracy happening just within Gilbert itself is shocking. Not even things that are coming out of the church. It's unbelievable. Hey, pretty bird. Interconnected behind the scenes. There you go. Yeah. It goes like this. Okay, so Crusher's going to tell us. It goes like this. You get a temple recommend. That is the secret society within the LDS church. And their mission is to forward the age-old conspiracy to thwart the people and the second coming, ushering in a new world order. And, just what I know, I wouldn't question that because, so I've lived overseas a lot of different countries. Do you know every place that I've ever lived, there was a pretty respectable size of like a Mormon missionaries. Yeah, always. And they would integrate into the local community. So you would get indigenous people that are practicing the Mormon faith. Very interesting. So interesting. There are two LDS churches. One is masquerading as a Christian institute, and the underbelly, just my opinion, not all LDS members are a part or even aware they're good people. I agree wholeheartedly, Martian. Research, well, that is happening. New World Order. Oh, I know. Fractured Fairy Tales is terrible. Gilbert is kind of strange, isn't it, Pretty Bird? There's some strange things happening in Gilbert, Arizona. So it makes it difficult to weed out because the good church people are denying that their church would ever be affiliated. They believe their leaders are not corrupt. Hey, how much money was it found that their slush fund turned out to be? Like the Mormon church has got a stupid amount of money, and the few people at the top are living like pharaohs and kings while everybody else is just giving all their money to the church. It's really crazy. Yep, Mesa is better than Gilbert. Remember that kid that was in the news about being taken somewhere? I can't remember his name. He was from Arizona. Yes, C-Star. C-Star. There's so many of those stories coming from that part of Arizona. I've waited my entire life for someone to validate my early suspicions from when the FLDS came knocking and mom let them in the house. Yeah, but Martian Planet Art, those people that were in Texas, that was the Warren Jeffs tribe. They came from Arizona, but they came right straight into West Texas or Southwest Texas. They were in Houston all the time. And the town people just overlooked them for years and years. It was reporters used to go and try to do these exposés on the compound. Law enforcement wouldn't even touch them. Of course, then it came out that FLDS was giving law enforcement protection money. Yeah, this is a dirty group of people. And they're not just, here's the other thing, they're not just dirty to the outside world, they're dirty within their tribe. For example, there was one man in Texas who was like an aerospace engineer, right? He was very learned. He was brilliant, great guy. As long as he was working on the side of Warren Jeffs' inner circle, well, I guess he was considered part of the inner circle, but as long as he was working for the good of the community and didn't question Jeff's and Jeff's son and what he was doing, then he had a little McMansion to live in, and he had tons of wives and young wives. And I mean, it was just an obscenity. It was just a disgusting thing. And then his daughter got scooped up, right? His daughter got scooped up, and they were going to carry his daughter off in the middle of the night, and she was going to be married off to a 50-year-old man. And he and his wife, one of his wives, said, no, we're not doing this anymore. And guess what? He lost everything. This guy was probably like 60 years old at the time. There were no more houses. He had no money because every bit of money that he was earning working for NASA, every bit of it was going directly into the FLDS bank. So he had no money. He had no houses. They gave him one old beat up truck, and he had none of his wives. He was on his own. He was in exile. So they weren't just nasty to the outsiders. They were nasty to their very own tribe if they stepped out of line. I lived in Utah for a bit, and wow, I say. Russell Ballard, the now dead apostle who was involved in this, is connected to Disney and Art Linkletter. Wow, that is crazy. How was M. Russell Ballard related to Disney? To Walt, I get, to the man? It's so crazy, isn't it? All these, even Kellogg's and Post, the men that started both of those cereal companies, they were powerful people back in the day. They're still powerful people today. It's like the whole history we've been taught isn't real. We've got these powerful families in position, and you can never break into the upper echelon. Oh, that's terrifying, Martian Planet Art. Yeah, it was an unbelievable amount and still getting more, right, Kresha? Just taking from good people that believe in what they're teaching. Yep. When you die, your spirit rules your own planet with all the kids you had in life on Earth. That's so crazy, Shalimar. It is crazy, pretty bird. It's scary, is what it is. And yeah, there is some suggestion that Warren Jeffs, his kids, they all remain worthy. It's terrible. Little houses on the prairie, braids and dresses, and the whole thing is the deal in Texas. I'm not going to say I know about Arizona and Utah, Idaho, but I do know exactly what happened in Texas, and it was enough to make you cry. It was a horrible experience. People won't believe me because it's batshit crazy. It is batshit crazy. But Kresha, how do they make sense of what Lori and Chad did? That was batshit crazy. It came from somewhere. No, I believe you. I totally believe you. And I don't know why the people that empowered Lori and Chad, I don't know why they've not been held to account. Yeah, not a conspiracy theory. Absolutely not. You should read about the compound in Texas. What they discovered. Can't. It's terrible. Terrible, terrible. And there's Mitt Romney, right? That's a strange thing that he's got going on. The way he votes, the things he supports is very strange. I have a friend who has always told me about this. He was always suspect of the information gathering, and I used to call him a conspiracy theorist. I had to eat humble pie. Yet, supposedly Walt Disney was a Freemason, yeah. Russell Ballard actually funded the e-meter, which was used to gauge illnesses in people, similar to Chad's rating systems and energy healing crap. Scientologists now call it the cans. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Kellogg family name you were just speaking of. Look up the Manson red drums in the Process Church of the Final Judgment. They were connected, really? Oh my God. Lori wants sealed to all of her husbands. No one else could marry them. Look, Lori is just sadly, I think Lori is just a good old fashioned narcissist. She was just looking for supply and she thought Chad was the ticket. That's what I believe. That's my opinion. News has it always. Always like now. That's what I'm saying. Chad and Lori's cult is only a front to something. Trafficking, arms. I'm going to say it. Well, where are the kids going, Kresha? How many kids have been lost by the United States government? 85,000 at one time. First, it was 300,000. Then they found some, but still 85,000 kids. Do you know how many people that is? They didn't just poof off the face of the earth. Yeah, really sad stuff going on. Really, really, really sad things. Okay, so. Again, the point of going back and listening to Zach's interview is you have this very strange group of people that are targeting Adam as somehow his answers on the stand were not what they wanted, maybe. And they're kind of taking this approach that maybe somehow Adam is nefarious, or what, or that he did not try to help Charles. Well, that's just silly. The prosecutor has all the discovery. The prosecutor has seen everything, even the things she's not presenting in court. There's no way that the prosecutor would go forward putting someone on the stand that could blow up her case. Not going to happen. And I wanted to show this because Zach comes out with the information that really directly calls into question the nonsense that some of these people are spouting about Adam. I think it's wrong. I think it needs to stop. Quit trying to demonize someone. You've got your demons. Lori Vallow did horrific things, and she did not need anyone's help. And Chad Daybell did horrific things and didn't need anyone in the Cox family or the Vallow family to help him. I think we really need to get back to focusing on what is actually real. And I think Zach's interview provides a glimpse into what was real. This was real. Lori had some very strange ideas in 2018, the beginning of 2018. She did not meet Chad Daybell until October. And then within 6, 7, 8 months, she had packed everything up, killed her husband, and moved up there to be with Chad, just like the chick that came from Connecticut. Adam Cox had nothing to do with any of that. In fact, he was the only one that had the courage to stand on his feet and declare his family had a real problem, that Lori had gone off the rails, and that he wasn't playing along with their BS, that Lori was somehow special and in the right, and Charles was a bad guy. He didn't believe that at all. He understood, Zach understood, Lori was having a serious problem, and Charles was trying to figure out a way to deal with it well before Chad Daybell showed up.
That's how that really was. They had that dynamic of always, same thing with him. You know, he was a truck driver, and instead of like listening to music or, you know, the radio, he was listening to religious podcasts and these, I don't know what the right word is for these books, these preparing a people books, maybe.
Yeah.
Kind of about the end of times and things. But going back to that day with Charles, so we get into that fight around the afternoon, and I start packing up my things, and Tylee comes upstairs because Lori had asked for Tylee to go pick up JJ from school. So and take him to do.
This is the part that I think a lot of people sort of overlooked, right? Everybody's sort of relating to Lori and Tylee as a parallel to how you interact with your daughter, or how I interact with my daughter. You got to understand, you and I were not walking around saying, oh, we're going to be like the biblical people, right? We're going to have all these magical, mystical powers, and people are going to write sonnets about us. That is not what was happening. Tylee was in trouble. Just like Zach is describing, Lori had some bull going on. I mean, she was out there. Tylee was trying to balance. And it does appear, and I'm acknowledging I could be wrong, but I do feel like some of the way this has been described, I think that I think this family wanted Lori to be special. I think they were real excited about having a goddess in their family. And I think they too were hungry for their jewel-encrusted pharaonic temple to live in. I do believe that. Can you imagine being Tylee, being healthy and normal, I'm talking about in your mind, the way you view the world, recognizing your mom had gone completely off the rails and that your grandparents were supporting this, that Summer, your beloved aunt, was just like, oh, well, Lori will be okay. We just got to be nice. Go along. Don't ruffle feathers. Can you imagine the terror that Tylee was living with? Now, listen to what the story that Zach's about to tell about Tylee, and then you will recognize and realize this was not just a normal, regular family that were doing well. By the time they left to go to Rexburg, things were as bad as they could possibly get. Tylee was living in a nightmare.
Things. And Tylee comes upstairs because Lori had asked for Tylee to go pick up JJ from school. And take him to do something fun. So Tylee had asked me if I wanted to go with her to pick him up from school and go do something fun. So I said yes. So finished packing my things, load up my car. We take her car, go pick up JJ, and then we went to eat at Freddy's. He loved going to Freddy's right by his school. And then we went to the movies and we saw a movie, and JJ loved to play in the play area at the movies. So he did that while we were watching a movie. And I came back and got in my car and I went to my grandparents. And my whole thought process during this time was that I don't like conflict. I know Lori and Charles have had fights before. I know this one was a little different with why she was fighting with him. And I really, to be honest, I just didn't want to be involved. It was something that I thought they would work out, things like that. So it was a long day. I get to my grandparents around like 7:30 at night.
And the reason he believed that they would work this out is because they always did. This was not unusual. Lori was chaotic. So the family was used to these moments of crisis. And then somehow, because Charles was healthy and Charles was grounded, Charles could figure out a way to calm her down and get things back together. And I believe that's all he was doing. I think he was just trying to keep his home together for the sake of JJ and Tylee. That's what I really do believe that. So Zach is just like, this is going to be like all those other times. They're going to figure it out. They're going to work it out. And Lori will calm down and then all will be well.
Because they know Charles is having a fight. Charles and Lori were having a fight. And I said, hey, can I stay with you guys for a little bit if that doesn't pan out? And they said, sure. And I regret it. I plugged in my phone, set it down, and I went to sleep that night. And that's when I woke up to 30 texts from Charles. That was the night that, and I should have called him. That's probably one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't call him that day driving to my grandparents saying Lori's going crazy. He had canceled like that. That's one of my biggest regrets with this whole thing. And
so you had witnessed that she was upset. You're on that other side where Charles is coming back from Houston and you were with Lori and she's saying that he's a zombie. He's Ned or Nick Schneider. She cancels his flight, etc. The truck is taken. His stuff. I don't know. How does one person go about removing all these belongings too?
So she had Melanie Gibb come over and help her out. And that's when me, Tylee, and JJ were gone.
And
so just her and Melanie Gibb
packed up
taking out all his clothes, his laptop, or whatever he had.
So Charles had said too, once he found his stuff, because I woke up to about 30 texts from him, and I woke up at 7 and called him instantly. And he said he was at the house and he found his stuff. She hid all of his stuff. She packed it up in boxes and put it behind the food storage in this closet because she had a ton of food storage too.
Oh my God.
So she left it all behind this stuff thinking he would never find it. Or it got to a point where she eventually told him where his truck was. And there were some other things that happened. I think he had gone to JJ's school that day too to pick him up with the rental car. And he took her purse and that was that whole thing.
That's a little body camera footage and Lori's telling her side to the cops and eventually she goes and gets mentally evaluated, but she's released like that.
Right. So if she passed that, then she's fit for trial.
And you went to your grandparents talking about Barry and Janice.
Okay, before they start on Barry and Janice, hiding Charles's things. She took the $35,000 payroll money out of his business account. But more important, she took real steps to interfere with him doing something about it. So she takes $35,000, but then she cancels his flight home. So now he's stuck at an airport and he's like, oh my gosh, I got to get a ticket, probably wait for a different flight, etc. He gets to the airport, his truck is gone, so he's got to arrange transportation. He gets to the house, he can't get in the house because the locks have been changed. All of these things were what? Buying Lori time. Getting Lori time before the accountability for the $35,000 hit the fan. Think about that. Does that sound like a crazy lady who's delusional and believes that she's one of the 144,000? Or does it sound like a woman who is calculating and cruel and insatiable and voracious in terms of getting her own needs met? Do you think this woman has an ounce of empathy for anyone else, including her own children? These are the stories. These are the reasons. These are the points that make me believe she was not crazy in the traditional sense of that. She was not insane. She's dealing with a tremendous personality disorder, narcissistic in nature, with borderline and histrionic features. And the sum total of all those influences, well, she's your worst nightmare. And Kresha, I completely appreciate you. And I love, love, love that someone else gets me. People just thought what I was saying was crazy because it's so different than what like mainstream media is saying, right? But when both of us, Kresha and I didn't even know each other, right? When we finally started talking, we were both like, oh my gosh, I thought the same thing. Where did that come from? And we realized we were both having exactly the same thoughts. We can't both be wrong, y'all. Sincerely. Lori and Chad were not operating on their own. To accomplish all that they did, they had to have been empowered. There had to have been people around them that built them up and gave them confidence to commit the most atrocious, egregious, anti-human behaviors imaginable. And those 7 gatherers, you'll never convince me that they didn't know what was going on. Never. Who moves across the country from Connecticut to Rexburg? And then when 2 dead children are found, they say, oh, just kidding. We're going to go on down to the temple in Arizona. The only thing that would have shook me more is if they had gone to the compound in Texas. Yeah. There's a lot of sex magic, FLDS kind of nonsense with this entire story, which is just mind control. It's just a form of mind control, no different than drugs.
I'm
Now we're going to talk about Janice and Barry. Y'all listen.
interested in what they thought.
And that's the other thing is I was in a tough situation that this is probably my biggest regret is I should have done more back then. Everyone in the family hated Charles. No one was talking to him, answering his calls, texts, going off on him because they believed.
Who is everyone? First off, so
They hated Charles because Charles was saying, Lori, you're not a translated being. You're not biblical. You don't have magic, Lori. You're just a person. You're a nice person. I love you, but I'd sure like to get my wife back. Let's get you some help. I believe, it's my opinion, Janice and Lori's dad were really excited about the idea of having a goddess in their family, a goddess and the prophet. I think they bought into the nonsense regarding Chud. I do. I think they were part of empowering Lori.
So people know who's everyone. Like the majority.
The whole Cox family. Barry, Janice, Summer, her husband, Colby, Kelsey, everyone took Lori's side immediately without listening to Charles.
They assume she's telling the truth.
Yep.
He's having an affair.
Yep.
And we don't want anything to do with it. We're not talking to him.
My dad, me, Brandon was monitored by Melanie when it came to talking to Charles, because she was obviously really tight-knit with Lori. But we were the only ones talking to Charles. And I really felt like I was an undercover agent talking to Charles because if they saw his name pop up on my phone, I knew, there'd be conflict, there would be a fight. So I would be texting Charles, call him when I was out on my own or driving around.
Okay, weird people who have decided that Adam was some kind of spy for Lori. You weird people. Does this sound like Zach thinks that he is helping Lori or Janice or Barry or Summer? Or does it sound like he and his dad, Adam, are trying to do the right thing and support the person who was actually mentally healthy? What does it sound like? He said, I felt like I was like a spy or a double agent trying to hide my phone so that Lori could not see that Charles was contacting, so that Summer and Alex could not see that he was texting with Charles. If he and his dad were being spies, then there would not have been a need to lie to Lori and Alex and Janice and Barry and Summer. They'd have just said, oh, look, Lori sent me a text. Here's what she's saying now. You guys that are targeting Adam, you guys are way off base. And in a story that is already so damn tragic that it almost takes your breath away, why do you want to make it seem even worse? Isn't there enough destruction and grief and sadness? Like, why are you even doing this nonsense?
This went on for really that whole period up until he was killed, from about January to July.
When you say monitored, Melanie Pulowski monitored her ex-husband, Brandon Boudreaux. What do you mean, like checking the phone for Charles?
Not checking it, but like Brandon wouldn't be able to get away to actually like speak with Charles. He never really had the right opportunity. They had the kids they had to watch. Like he couldn't really get time to himself.
And imagine, just wrap your mind around this. Melanie Pulowski has not spent one day in jail. She has walked free and clear in Arizona and in Idaho. No worries at all about having been arrested. She was literally monitoring Brandon Boudreaux, who later was shot at by someone driving Tylee's Jeep. Excuse me, Gilbert Police Department, could one of your police officers please show up for duty? That'd be real nice. You know what I mean? Be real nice.
So I remember one time too, Charles was saying that he's going to move back to Houston with JJ. And this was, Kay came down to visit Charles and stay with him. And he said they were moving. If I wanted to come by, because I would go by the house, see them for a little bit when I could. I was going to real estate school at the time. And after class, I'd go and see them and then head home. But he said one point they were moving back to Houston, which they did. And I told my grandparents that I was going to go see Charles and JJ before he left. Well, my grandma had texted Lori about that and said, hey, just a heads up, because I saw that she left this text, her phone on on the computer. Not phone on the computer, sorry. She
Mhm.
left her phone on the table in the kitchen, and it said like, "Hey, Zach is going to see Charles, and JJ just wanted you to give you a heads up." Because at this point, I would text Lori occasionally to check in. I think this is when she was in Hawaii, kind of off and doing her own thing. This is when no one really knew where she was at.
Yeah.
For 70 days.
And I was worried about her. I mean, this was a really confusing time for me, to where all this stuff is going on. You know, I know if I get caught talking to Charles, I could get kicked out of this house. I know that I love Lori, and I was worried about her at the time. And I want to make everyone happy. Like, I don't want.
There's your narcissistic mother influence right there. If I don't toe the line and believe as my grandmother believes, or believe as my Aunt Lori believes, I could be kicked out. Who lives like that? Who treats their family like that? Who does that? That is how narcissists control people. That's how they manage and manipulate others. They instill in them fear. Sometimes the fear is, I'll write you out of the will. You won't get any of my money when I die. Or I'm going to disown you. You're going to be homeless, and I'm not going to let you take that car with you that I bought for you. Even narcissists will even target a person in the family they're mad at who's not towing the line. They'll go around to all the other siblings and lie about what the one sibling's doing that did not toe the line. They'll get everyone else in the family mad at the one person. And then when everybody is sufficiently angry at the one person who didn't toe the line, then they start crying and saying that that one person hurt them. They did something bad. And then the whole family turns on that one person who was just trying to tell the truth. This is the life of the scapegoat. This is what they do to them. Life in a narcissistic family with a narcissistic mother is a painful, confusing, terrible existence. And the fact that Adam was able to navigate it around Janice and Lori, 100%, I support him. He's still standing on his own 2 feet, and he's away from it. He got out of the nonsense. So good for him. And you guys are barking up the wrong tree with this little conspiracy that you have. If you really want to get down into the dirt with conspiracy theory, why don't you start investigating the 7 gatherers? Those are the people that were around when Lori is praying for the death and destruction of children and mankind. Why aren't you going after them? Why are you picking on Adam, who's already maneuvered his way out of this family as scapegoat and maneuvered into, I'm going to be my own man and stand on my own 2 feet, and I'm going to approach reality? Why don't you do that? Why do you have to demonize this man who's already been through so much? I'm just disgusted by all of you guys that are doing that.
People to think I'm siding, which, to be honest, I wish I would have just been more bold about it. That's something that I regret. I should have just instantly stuck up with Charles's side and let the family know that's where I was at, because he was 100% right. And it kind of just pissed me off that she had said that text to Lori like I was doing something bad. Like that was such an awful thing that I was going to see Charles and JJ. So that's how they viewed it. That's how everyone viewed this situation with Charles when it happened. Another key thing that Charles said was that everything Lori is accusing Charles of doing is what she was actually doing.
It's called projection.
So she was accusing Charles of cheating with, prostitutes, whoever, had this girlfriend in Texas when she's really having an affair with Chad Daybell.
Yep.
And then she had accused Charles, my dad, Brandon, and me. This is what we found out. I mean, it's such a lengthy story, but after Charles was killed, no one in the family told us. Colby my grandparents, no one texted us. So my dad's in town in Arizona, and we're house sitting at my Aunt Summer's house because their family's in New York, and we're watching their dog. And my dad flew in Wednesday night. Thursday comes, which is the morning that Charles was killed. And, I go to work that day. My dad does whatever with my grandparents. I think he went to go eat with them and then was at the house. And then that night we went to play basketball. Friday comes, we went to see our second cousins that we were related with. Still no word from Charles. We sent him a couple.
These same crazy people that are trying to say that Adam did something nefarious, they also said that Adam abandoned Charles after he paid for Adam's plane ticket. They're saying that. Actually, the reality is that Zach and Adam are texting Charles overnight and into the day that he was killed, and they were not getting him any answers. They weren't getting any answers from him. So what are they real? Do you believe that Adam is omniscient? You believe that he can read minds? Or is it more likely that he was thinking, well, maybe Lori and Charles are talking. Maybe they're trying to work things through. And Zach is telling you, a kid who has absolutely zero reason to lie, that they were messaging Charles. And Brandon had messaged. They were just waiting for him to answer. Would you have done something different in that same situation? Or would you have just thought, hey, well, maybe Charles went over there. I mean, they knew he was there because he had messaged and said, hey, Alex is, here. I'm at Lori's. And wouldn't you just say to yourself, well, he's not answering yet. I bet they're talking. I bet they're trying to work things out. Maybe they're going to fix things like they have 100 times before. What is natural? Is it natural to go, oh, wow, you know what? I totally bet Lori killed Charles. I bet that happened. You're going to think that? Or are you going to think, yeah, I bet they're talking it out just like they have before. They've done this before a lot. Maybe they're trying to work it out. Which one is more logical? Right? Which one's more logical? So no, Adam didn't abandon Charles. They were saying, hey, we're here. Let us know what's going on. And then, probably driving down the road, Adam's like, hey, Zach, send a text to Uncle Charles, see what he says. You see my point? And yet this group of people that in this bizarre thing have just decided to demonize the one man, the one sibling, the one guy that stood up to this entire nutty family and said, no, absolutely not. I'm standing with Charles. He was ambushed. Absolutely not. This is so wrong. No. They choose this guy, the one who had some courage, and don't think it was easy for him coming out of that family. I guarantee you there was a mountain of manipulation throughout his whole entire life. But he did it, and that's what counts. And the prosecutor trusts him and put him up on the witness stand, and that is what counts. And in no way should the demonization of Adam be happening right now. And if you guys if you're a lynch mob and you're just looking for someone else to blame, then by God, do your damn research and look at the 7 gatherers, because those are the people that had influence with Lori.
Text, and it was weird because he's normally always on his phone. So at this point, Charles has been dead for basically 24 hours, and we still don't know. No one told us, texted us. They all knew, because they were going through Charles's phone and saw that me and my dad were texting with, and Brandon were texting with Charles, the family, the Cox family.
And so, all of you guys that are demonizing Adam, why don't you answer that question? Zach just told you. Lori took Charles's phone, left the scene with his phone, came back. Charles is now deceased, still has his phone, and there were messages happening on that phone until like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Lori and Alec were both reading that phone. They knew damn well that Adam and Zach and Brandon Boudreaux were trying to reach Charles. Where's your anger about that? Where's your anger in that? Telling you, you guys, y'all have picked the wrong cross to die on.
Friday comes, we go visit with second cousins. I get off work, go to sleep that night. Texted Colby if he wanted to go play basketball, no response. Obviously, we texted Al if he wanted to go to the comedy club to go do something, no response. So no one's responding to us, no one's talking to us. Saturday comes and we drive up to Tucson to see my dad's friend.
They invited Charles to see if he wanted to go to the comedy club. They tried to invite Colby to go to the comedy club with them. Does that sound like abandonment? I am mystified that you guys have chosen the one guy with the courage to thumb his nose at Lori and Janice and the rest of the clan. Why are you doing it? It is so bizarre. You better check the leader you're following. You better be real careful about who you're putting your trust in.
To visit with him. And while we're driving up there, we were seriously like, did they do something to Charles? Because we haven't heard from him in 2 days. Calls, texts, and I mean, he was always on his phone. He would at least respond. So we get there and we start talking to my dad's friend in Tucson, and we're like, man, we haven't heard from Charles. Like, Lori and Al have been super crazy. And at this point, me and Lori have zero relationship. She had said some more rumors about me that she had spread to the family and to Melanie, Brandon's ex-wife, because at this point I was living with Brandon and Melanie. So I experienced the same thing with their marriage, again.
Spreading rumors about one of the family's kids. Why? Because they're not doing what Janice wants. They're not doing what Lori wants. And in any narcissistic family, if you have the courage to have your own opinions or stand on your own 2 feet, then the only answer is that you be kicked out of the family, be ostracized, be disinherited. These narcissistic parents are brutal, painful people. He's a young adult. He's not a full-grown man. He's doing the very best he can. Same thing with Adam, to the point now that Lori is calling Melanie Pulowski and Brandon Boudreaux and telling lies about Zach and telling lies about Adam. They have the courage to stand up and tell the truth. They go to court, or Adam goes to court to testify, has the support of the prosecutor, has the faith of the prosecutor, and you guys decide to demonize this man? Well, tell me something in all of your infinite wisdom. Are you going to demonize Zach Cox? Oh my goodness, you guys are off base. I was so incensed watching that live. I couldn't stand myself.
And it's just a mess. So
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And I'm sorry if I go off on tangents.
No, you're not. I've never heard your perspective this way, because you're in this basically the front row seat, seeing everybody,
right?
And this is July 12th, July 13th by the time you haven't heard about Charles, because he was killed July 11th, and then you find out everything, and you know it's got to be hard knowing that's your uncle. But did you believe it was self-defense?
So so he gets killed July 11th. I'm looking at the calendar here. for 2019, July. He gets killed the 11th in the morning. It's July 13th, Saturday afternoon. We're in Tucson.
Wow.
And we're telling my dad's friend, like, we think Lori and Al might have done something because it's just so weird that we haven't heard from him and how crazy they've been. And my dad's friend goes, well, how do you spell his name? I want to look him up like on social media or online to see what it looks like. So he Googles Charles Vallow, and all these news reports pop up. Texas man fatally shot and killed by brother-in-law.
So sad.
And when he said that, he read that out loud. And like, I get goosebumps still talking about it, but like my heart dropped. And we pulled up the article, and I mean, instantly reading it, saying that it was self-defense and Charles hit Al with a baseball bat. I mean, if Charles really hit Al with a baseball bat, Al would be dead. I mean, Al would be seriously injured, not able to shoot a gun. He wouldn't have one tiny scratch, on the back of his head.
Yeah. He would be blacked out, knocked out at the least.
I mean, at least knocked out, right? Bleeding, needing to go to the hospital. He would. So we called Kay that day, and Kay and Larry, and they were in shock. They had said that no one believed it, really. No one believed the story. I'm trying to remember exactly what we talked about, but Kay and Larry were on speakerphone. We were on speakerphone, and I was just sitting there with my shirt over my head down. I literally could not believe this had happened.
Okay, again, to the group of people that are demonizing Adam Cox. Are you feeling good about yourself now? You go back and you revisit this interview, this young man absolutely telling the truth, describing the reality of what he and his dad were going through on this nightmare 48 hours before, like 24 hours before Charles is killed, leading up to 3 days after he's killed. To believe what you're saying just means you don't know what the hell you're talking about. To believe that Adam was somehow a spy and was getting information from Charles and running back to Lori to tell, you don't even understand what the truth is. You don't even remember the reality of what was said in the beginning from people like Zach Cox, who lived it, who was there. This family, Zach and Adam, have already lost so much in the quest to do what was right. You are hurting people that have not earned that. It's like all over again watching when a bunch of people turned on Shanann Watts. That was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. Here's this woman brutally murdered by her husband after he's been having an affair for 4 weeks. Brutally murdered, and her 2 babies. And I'm not even going to go into that. 3 babies, technically. You guys pick this woman to attack and demonize? Well, what you're doing with Adam is exactly the same. It's obnoxious, and it just reflects that you are ignorant about what the reality is.
They murdered Charles. There's no doubt about it. So, and then, when you see the footage of the body cam of the police, he's laying there with the bat perfectly next to him, and his flip-flops are still on. I mean, if there was a scuffle, at least, to me, flip-flops are coming off if there's a scuffle.
That's right.
I mean, there's just so many things that stuck out to me when I saw that video that didn't add up. And the baseball was placed perfectly, didn't roll around. The bat, sorry, not the baseball bat. It just didn't make sense. Off the rip, we didn't believe it. Lori at this point had told the family that my dad, me, Brandon, Charles were all conspiring against her.
Sure.
Trying to get her insurance money, which is what she really was going after with Charles. Like he had said, everything she's doing is what she's accusing him of doing. So
sad. So
hearing
sad.
the news that she's at least getting, I know Al's dead, but he'd be charged for some of those things. And I wholeheartedly believe too that they killed Al. I mean, the timing is
I do too, Zach.
insane. Right after Tammy gets exhumed,
And right
The day
after
after.
Chud gives him a
that's
blessing.
crazy. But, you know, as far as what was the charge called? Belief to commit.
No, this is a conspiracy to commit first degree murder, which we've been waiting for Chandler PD to. I mean, they said in last August, they were close. Whatever close meant, you know, 6 months or so around that time. That was like the time frame. But here we are. April 1st is when they did it, and they waited to announce it now after the grand jury indictment. It's all timed up.
And why aren't we going
how
after
do you,
the
how
seven
do you feel for
gatherers
Charles?
That's 2 years too
and
late.
Jason Mao?
But I'm glad that it's finally coming. I think the ball was completely dropped when it happened. I think Lori was very, in that video, there's just so many things that are just so suspicious that I don't know how there was an investigation immediately.
Absolutely.
Or more questions or more belief, because that whole body cam footage, the vibe is off with everybody. And Tylee obviously looked very uncomfortable when they came back. Which was unfortunate that they had dragged
She's
her.
the only one that looks very uncomfortable. I mean, Alex, he's holding onto his head. He's saying it's self-defense. Lori's smiling, wide smile. She's laughing. She's having a good time, or, you know, friendly, not showing any concern or sadness, knowing that her husband, even though it's strange, has just been
party that
shot.
Day.
And different stories too.
I don't know if anyone's asked.
So terrible.
What did Tylee have to say about this?
The last time that I saw Tylee was that Saturday we found out Charles was killed. We drove back to Tucson, back from Tucson to Phoenix to my grandparents' house. And Tylee was there.
So sad.
And we get in there, and this is really where everything happens with our family, where we get into a huge fight with our grandparents. My dad gets in a fight with his parents. I get in a fight with them, and they kick us out, and we move to Kansas. Or I moved back to Kansas with my parents. One, because we were scared of Al and Summer. That night we Summer, Al and Lori, because we stayed at Summer's house and they knew where we were at. We stayed up all night because we were scared they were going to come in there and do something to us.
So sad.
And then flew out the next day. So that last day, that Saturday, we get there, and Tylee's in the kitchen crying to my grandma. And
listen to this story, y'all.
She's hugging her, and Tylee's getting ready to leave. And the thing about Tylee is, if she truly believed, you know, that my dad, Charles, me, and Brandon were conspiring against her mom, she would have said something to us. Tylee was very boisterous when it came to conflict. And she was not, she was walking out because she was leaving as we were getting there. And sorry. She, as she's walking out, she's looking at me, and I can just tell that
brutal.
I can just tell that she wanted to say something to me. Oh, sorry.
Take your time.
I could just tell that she wanted to say something about what happened on Thursday.
That's right.
And she started walking towards me, and my grandma kind of like guided her shoulders and walked her out.
Oh my gosh.
And that was the last time that I saw Tylee.
And then they moved to Idaho.
Yeah, and at this point, she leaves. And we get in this huge fight with my grandparents. about how they think they went through Charles's phone. Lori had Charles's phone after he was killed for a few days and probably deleted a ton of stuff, saw all our messages talking with Charles. And
What are these messages saying?
Charles wanted my dad to come down to talk with Lori and record what Lori was saying to play to a bishop.
This is the reason why the story that he just told, that Tylee had self-awareness. She was not in agreement that Charles did something bad. No, I don't even think it was Stockholm syndrome. I think Tylee was terrified. I think Tylee knew exactly what happened at that house. I think she saw her mom and Alex kill her stepdad, the only father she ever really knew. And I think that she had been groomed and coached to keep her mouth shut. And I think she was thinking to herself, I don't want to leave with my mom, who is nuts. I'm terrified. Can I go with Zach and Uncle Adam? I think that's what she was going through her mind. What were her options? Who did she have left? Her mother had wiped out her family at that point. Where was she going to go? Who was she going to turn to? So really the only lifeline she would have really had was Zach and Adam. And yet Janice took Tylee by her shoulders and guided her away from Zach. Oh, that's wonderful, Cresha. Bless Zach's heart. I have a note Zach wrote to my Uncle Charles thanking him for showing him how to treat a family, how to be a dad and a husband. He also told him he would miss $10 Subway sandwiches. It was genuine. I mean, this is all you need to know. If you are one of those people that has devised this weird conspiracy that somehow Adam wasn't being authentic, you are not paying attention. This young man told his truth, told his story. Adam, up on that witness stand, told his story. The steps they took to bring justice to Lori and what I think should be other members of the Cox family. I think Janice and Barry should have to answer for their empowerment of Lori. I think the 7 gatherers, including Jason Mao and others, they too should have to answer for this sick environment that they've created, that they allowed these 2 bozo clowns to turn into, some kind of abomination out of the Stephen King novel. They didn't do this on their own. They had the blessing of people that were saying, yeah, you are special, and we're going to be special too. It's just awful. I found the note crumpled up in the bottom of a box that came from Charles's house in Houston. I wondered if Lori crumpled it. I wouldn't put it past her. Don't put anything past Lori. That chick is nuttier than a fruitcake, Cresha. She has done the worst. There is nothing worse than taking the lives of 2 kids that believe that you are the one to keep them safe. She's done the worst. There is nothing worse than what she's done. Oh, it's just so sad to watch. And I didn't want to do this because I hate exploitation, right? But what I saw in that chat, what I heard that channel creator saying, and the side chat was just like, yeah, and he did this, and he did that, and he said this, and he said that. They were he's so shady because he wouldn't answer questions about the last time he saw Lori. No, that is not shady. That is him staking his claim. He wasn't going to help her. his pattern of answering exactly mimicked the pattern of answering by the police, the fire department, and the detectives. Were you paying attention to any of them? They weren't going to give Lori any information. They were not going to help her in her defense at all. I swear, I just think people they just want to pretend to be smart. They don't even give any thought to whether what they're saying makes any sense or if the facts match it. It's simply, it's almost unforgivable that the one person in this family that had the courage to stand up against the whole damn clan was Adam and his son Zach. And you guys choose him to attack. I mean, it sort of makes me wonder what's going on where you live. Are you from Chandler, Arizona? just curious. Are you one of the 7 gatherers? Are you buddies with Jason Mal? Is that why you're coming up with these crazy stories? And to the police department, why the hell aren't you investigating Jason Mal, Melanie Gibb, and Melanie Pulowski? Why? Why aren't you doing it? Why isn't Zulema in jail? Are you? Why?
Because Charles thought if he could get her excommunicated from the church, that she wouldn't be able to go to the temple anymore, which she loved going to the temple, and she'd snap out of it. And obviously no one in the family would help. Lori wasn't talking to me or Charles at this point, avoiding us. So he asked my dad for help. So that's why my dad flew down. So our plan was to, like, my dad wanted to meet with Lori, record her, and, you know, help Charles out. And they saw these texts that, you know, this whole time I was talking with Charles and going to see him and JJ and whatever the case was. Because at this point, too, Lori had gotten back with Charles and moved to Houston.
To get money.
Right? So Lori's been living in Houston with Charles, and then he rents out a place for Tylee and Lori and JJ to be in Phoenix around the family still.
Yeah, to be around the family or to be where she could be in touch with Chud. And how laughable was that, Kresha? How laughable was it that this harlot says that they're in Houston, Texas, and Houston doesn't have the services for autism? It is the 4th largest city in the country, and it is the home of some of the world's most well-known autism researchers. The fact that she said that they couldn't get proper autism services for JJ in Houston, absolutely laughable. She's just a liar. She's an absolute liar.
And I never knew where this place was. This is where they ended up shooting Charles.
Yeah, Chandler.
Yeah, they never told me they moved back. I found out they moved back from Tylee, just texting me that they're back in Arizona because she had driven out to Arizona by herself.
And so you never talked to Tylee again after you saw her, and you never texted, never called?
The whole family had blocked us on everything. All social media, because they all took Lori's side. No one reached out to me.
Terrible.
To ask me if I was conspiring against Lori.
You had no idea where they left to.
No idea. No contact with them.
You're in Kansas. Everyone's just split up.
Everyone's split up. Family is destroyed. Like that.
So sad.
And obviously they all sided with Lori. No one asked us anything. You know, is this true? Are you guys... No one even called to say, are you guys plotting? Because she had said that we were plotting to kill Lori for her insurance money. Me, Charles, Brandon, and my dad.
It was just
Does she even have a life insurance policy?
I have no idea. I know that's what she was doing against Charles and Chad eventually with Tammy and all that stuff. But that's really how it ended. I mean,
Zach,
yeah.
I could talk to you for hours. I mean, this is a lot, and I'm just, I'm sorry because all of you in the family are affected somehow. Everyone.
Yep.
Your grandparents, your dad, your aunt, everyone has been impacted somehow. Whether you guys agreed with each other or not, you guys fought.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I mean, it's been a long journey.
Yeah, it has been, and not just us two. I mean, all of Tylee's friends, JJ's friends, JJ's
right.
school. I mean, we went to JJ's school for his birthday to drop off some balloons, and they've got a ribbon on a tree for him and a ribbon on a tree for Tylee, and the teachers just loved him. Like
there's just this ripple effect.
All these people, and they're so selfish that they didn't think it would matter. I mean, they.
Now, you hear that description that Zach tells about how the school felt about JJ, how positive it all was, right? That he was embraced and he was well loved, correct? Exactly how was JJ described by the 7 gatherers? How did Melanie Gibb describe JJ? How did her weird husband, how did he describe Melanie Pulowski? They had such a negative view of JJ as compared to Zach, his relationship with JJ and Tylee, going up to the school where the school is embracing JJ. That's all you need to know about who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. Weird creator lady and you people that need to find a demon. You know who your demon is. Lori and Chud. There's your demons. You need more demons? Why don't you look into Jason Mao? Why don't you learn about the 7 gatherers and the mess that they were involved in? Or better yet, why don't you do what Kresha did and start looking at the people that are actually in charge of the church, the temples in Idaho, Texas, and Arizona? There's so many people with very questionable behavior and influence in this story. You don't have to look for the one guy who stood up against this group of destructive, terrifying people. You know, it's weird that you would do that. It really makes me question, who the hell are you and what is driving you? Why would you pick Adam of all the people in this story? Why would you pick him to demonize to your YouTube channel? Why would you do that? Why would you tell lies about Tylee even once the proof is put out there that what you're saying is a bald-faced lie? You keep repeating it. I mean, do you just have this insatiable need to be seen as the smartest person in the world? Because you are off base. You have completely misjudged this entire situation. And again, turn those research skills onto the 7 gatherers. Turn those research skills onto Zulema and Jason Mao and Serena and Christina even. Look at the real people that cause this mess, not Adam and Zach, who had the damn courage to stand up to their very own family. You are off base. Adam and Zach, these are people that deserve the same prayers, the same support that you are giving to Charles Vallow's family and to Tammy Daybell's family. You are way off base on this. And it was obnoxious what I witnessed. Obnoxious. Okay, I'm done. I got so mad I'm done. Woo, I'm done. If we were talking about the same creator, I have my own theories as to why this person has embedded into these tragedies. It's not far from what Lori has done. Kresha, what is she doing? Is this her? Is this her, just like when Lori saw Chud and saw how all the people were hanging on his every word and, oh, look, they all trust and believe in Chad. I need to hitch my wagon to him because that will get me my narcissistic supply, right? Is that what this creator's doing? Is she looking at this and saying, my one connection, my one historical connection back in the day might be my one ticket to building up a sizable YouTube channel to have influence? I mean, are we really seeing this wrong, Kresha? You and I hadn't even talked about this. You just recognized who I was talking about by what I was saying. We know who we're talking about. And in the beginning, I don't mind saying this. In the beginning, I was like, yes, this is good information. She's a good researcher. This is helping to sort of make this chaotic mess a little more understandable. But now it's insanity. The bullshit, excuse my language, the stuff being said coming out of that chat, what I heard her say herself out of her own mouth, I couldn't believe it. I can't believe it. She literally says that the way Adam answered the questions about like the last time he saw Lori and such was really, really sus, was really weird. And what was the thing that happened in 2018? It was the death of Joe Ryan. I was like, oh my God, so much happened in 2018. And I have absolutely myself said, I would not be surprised at all to find out that Lori did, in fact, knock off Joseph Ryan. Truly, it wouldn't surprise me. But I'm not so short-sighted to believe that that's the only important thing that happened in 2018. There was a lot of stuff that happened to y'all's family, to the Cox family. There were a lot of big events in 2018. So it's a little self-obsessed to say, oh, it happens to be, my one thing that would make me famous. Well, anyway, I'm not going to keep talking about that. Love Dan Cummins at Martian Bubba Humps cracks me up. I forgot he said that. Thanks for the reminder and the laugh. I think of you when I listen to his cult podcasts. She certainly abused him through the courts. Oh, yeah, absolutely, Amber. It's terrible. So terrible. I'm going to have to dig him back up because my algorithm doesn't show things from him anymore. You just do a couple of searches and it should start popping back up in your algorithm. Yeah, so terrible. Ugh, so bad. Dan Cummings calls Alex Bubba Humps. Alex is a creepy guy, man. You don't even have to even watch a video of him. Although I was glad to see like the little clip of his stand-up comedy. He's a weird dude, right? The creepy trips to Mexico. Weird guy, very strange guy. Zach even knew he was strange, of course. And what did Lori do? Traditionally, her pattern of behavior was what? Identify people that were weak. I'm talking about in spirit. People that were weak, people that were naturally followers, and then order them around and tell them what to do. Lori was even telling people to divorce their husbands and marry a beta male that she and Chud picked out for them. She even questioned Serena on the stand, saying, oh, are you still married to him? Are you and Christina now related by marriage? Like maybe Christina and Serena, maybe Serena was supposed to marry Christina's husband, brother, right? That was something that needs to be investigated, Kresha. That was a moment when she's going, oh, are y'all related? Even by marriage? There's There was a story there. Oh, I'm saying, yes, Kresha, I'm over the BS. I'm over the social media BS. I'm over the YouTube BS. I'm over people acting out their own narcissistic tendencies on others online that say things they don't agree with. Just be honest. If you don't have to like make up lies about people. You don't have to alienate them. Just stay in your own lane, and if you take issue with something someone's saying, then state it, right? Tim Ballard told Reason to create his rescue organization is based off American tourism buying you know what. Yeah, sex tourism, right? Yeah, and there's Ballard. I was going to start a YouTube channel called The Mormon Murders. Do you know how many murders are happening with people that are Mormon? And how many of these strange deaths are coming out of people that are related to Rexburg? Even the doctor in Missouri, turns out his family was living where? Rexburg. How big is Rexburg? Not very. So, how is it we have so many extraordinary deaths all coming out of Rexburg, Idaho? How the hell does that happen? Justice Jane, I saw you in there. What did you think? I was so glad when I saw you in there because I thought, okay, it's not just me witnessing this. It was so inappropriate, wasn't it? It was so inappropriate. Man, it was terrible. Yeah. Yeah, just Mormon murders. A whole channel doing only murder stories where Mormons were involved. You could do a whole channel, Kresha. Maybe we ought to do that. Maybe we ought to do us another channel and we'll do like a co-hosting of the Mormon murders. My fiance Jason mentioned researching the Mormidor. The Mormidor and life insurance policy payouts. Hell yeah. You know what they say? They say that the Titanic sinking was not an accident, that it was actually a big insurance scam, that it was just an insurance payout to people that owned the ship. So is that what is happening with all these Mormon murders? The doctor from Missouri, his payments, his monthly alimony and child support payments were going to be something astronomical, something like maybe it was like $15,000 a month, or no, $19,000 a month. This one dude was going to have to pay for child support and alimony for this divorce, right? The Rexburg connection. So he dies, he gets killed in this weird, bizarre way out at this lake. And what? He turns around with a $10 million life insurance policy. Who benefited from that $10 million? Who benefited from the payout? Right? It's definitely curious. Definitely curious. Josh Powell, there's another story. Yep, there's another one. That's it. Oh, and it was so hard to get information, Kresha. You wouldn't believe it was so hard to get someone that would talk about this. Yep. Oh, yeah, that's a nightmare. Well, I mean, some of these cases stand out, right? The Josh Powell case stands out. The murder of the two little kids, the wife going missing. What was it? Where the diamonds were, or where the flowers were? Can't remember how the kid described it. JJ and Tylee. It's a horror. It's one of those stories that will stand out. Chris Watts, Bella and Cece. It's one of those stories. They don't come along very often. And, Crush, I'm just so sorry that you guys, were affected by one of those stories. Crystals. There you go, Sketty. Yeah, they left mom where the crystals were. Yep. Don't close the door to Mormon crime once Lori is gone. I feel like I'm under a time crunch to expose before the hooker, Lori whore, goes away. She's gonna go away too, Kresha, and that will be so satisfying to imagine her wasting away in a jail cell because no one will even know who she is or give a shit about her. And that will be the worst thing for her. She is, I believe, the quintessential narcissist, criminally insane. The dinosaurs, it's chilling, isn't it? The little kid saying they left mom where the crystals and dinosaurs were. So scary. Yeah, the whole bunch of them. Martian Planet, the grandfather, the father, they were all so messed up. And what did it involve? Weird sexual issues, child exploitation. It's always the same pattern. It's very frightening. The crystals might be a type of rock. She won't be able to get her fix. Yeah. She'll wither away into nothingness. She won't even be able to get up off the bed and twirl her hair into curls, Kresha. Won't that be a bright, happy day? Lori will have flat head. Yeah, do the Mormon Murders channel. I think it's awesome. That'd be a fun one to do. Behavior Panel put their Psychopath Award video on tonight. Have you seen that? I have not, Shalimar. Who won Psychopath of the Year? Yeah, the amusement parks. Ugh. Yeah, that's absolutely true, Sketty Nona. Wasn't it? It's so chilling when you put all the stories together into one place. It's so uncomfortable. The patterns. So uncomfortable. Maybe icicles. Yep. Thanksgiving Point, Utah. Yeah. Well, so it is now 12:30. And this remote viewing thing that Lori said Charles had to go because he was blocking her powers. Yeah, he wasn't blocking her powers. He was saying, Lori, this isn't normal. This isn't real. Ugh. She knows that now, though, doesn't she, Kresha? It's mighty satisfying thinking of that crazy heifer sitting up in a jail cell trying to lock into Chad's portal. My portal, there's a glitch in my portal, and Chad can't come bless my cell. So ridiculous. She never believed that. She never believed any of that. She didn't believe it, y'all. It was simply a means to an end. She wanted to be worshipped. That's all. That's all it was. It was cheap, shallow, low IQ, senseless. She's just dumb. That's all. Thanks for doing this live. I needed this one, and for this safe space to throw theories around. It's so valued and needed. I am just so glad that someone else understands me, Kresha. Because most people are like, how dare you say that? You can't talk mean about the Mormon religion. And I'm like, I'm not talking about the entire religion. I am talking about a group of people, zealotry, where they're using the power of religion to shore up their own personal power. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the entire religion, although Kresha can make you a believer. Okay. So, like always, you guys need to go to Kresha's channel. She has got amazing research. She knows it all of these connections, and it will definitely make you stop and think. And I'm not just picking on Mormons. A lot of bad things have happened in the name of Catholicism. There's been horrible things that have happened with the Catholic leadership in the church. Same thing with Southern Baptist influence. Look, anytime there is a concentration of real power with a few people unchecked, bad things happen. Period. So please don't do the whole virtue signaling and attack. Just wouldn't you rather try to develop insight in a way that's meaningful that might help put a stop to some of this? And, I'm going to tell you this too. With the amount of information that has been dug up on Lori Hoare and Chad and the Seven Gatherers, a civil case, wrongful death, shoot, I'd totally go for it, Kresha. I'd go for it. Not in a way to get money, because you can't get blood out of a turnip, right? But you do that for justification, for vindication, for Charles and Tammy Daybell and JJ and Tylee and even possibly even Joe Ryan. You do that to hold these people answerable. The Seven Gatherers, the Christina and Jason Mao's group, Thor, Melanie Gibb for damn sure, Pulowski for damn sure. You hold them accountable, make them tell their story, make them experience the real shame of the death of children. In addition to, Charles and Tammy, certainly. Oh man, I totally support it. It's the only thing you can do. It's the right thing to do if the cops are going to be serious about criminal charges. And I think they should be. I do think there should be criminal charges brought against Zulema, the rest of the Seven Gatherers, even Jason Mao, some others too. Julie Rowe, even, I think you could probably get charges or at least a civil case against Julie Rowe and her nonsense. What did she say? She first came out and said that she knew Chad Daybell and that those kids were safe and no one should worry about them and they were the greatest and Chad was the greatest. And then suddenly she turns around and says, oh no, I knew Chad was bad. Chad tried to rape me. You remember that nonsense? No, it's all culty crap. They were all feeding off of each other, trying to capitalize on people that had real religious beliefs and were not discerning reality. Yeah, for sure. How in Moonlight View, did Julie Rowe talk about knowing that Tammy was going to die? The answer is yes. Julie Rowe spoke openly that Chad told her that Tammy was going to die. Absolutely. Okay, Arizona, Colorado, can we bring some charges against Julie Rowe, perhaps? Oh, absolutely, Kresha. I believe that in my heart. Oh, look, her husband's name is in the FOIA docs where all the weird religious rituals. Julie did the call out to tell them where to be and when. wasn't that a crazy phone call too? You could tell she was talking in code. Ugh, so disgusting. Yeah, Vicky, it was a nightmare. I want Jules to hear that recording. Who were the people? Like, who had the recording? The Ides of March, these people are too much. Yes. Even the dates that they believe JJ died and Tylee died are connected to the occult calendar. Yep. When you get into the details, you guys, it is chilling. The man who interviewed with Kathy Brooks' channel is beginning chalked it up to Julie being mentally unwell. No crap. We agree on that. Yeah, for sure. That's right. The autumn equinox. Yep. Yep. Terrible. All right. Oh my gosh, tomorrow morning is going to come early, and guess who has to work tomorrow? Okay, I do. So I do have to end this. But thank you guys so much for hanging out and talking. They did all their dirt on satanic holidays, satanic, and then there was an occult, like a pagan holiday, not holiday, but pagan. The date for a pagan ritual. That also aligned with Shanann Watts too. That was pretty weird. Oh, that'd be awesome, Kresha. Yep. Okay. So, thank you guys for being here. I hope that if you are not subscribed to the channel, I invite you to. It simply helps me. It's a selfish thing to ask you to do. Please, I'm not saying join it, give me money. Just hit the little subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you don't mind, a thumbs up on the video kind of gets it shared out to other people. And tomorrow, Lori Hoare will be back in court, and I won't be watching tomorrow. Unfortunately, I do have to work all day, but I'll catch up at the end of the day and watch it in double time, and then I'll do a reaction video. Okay. So, everybody, thank you. Subscribe. Oh, my head, I'm sleepy. Mods, will you please put up Kresha's link to her channel? And Kresha will be covering the trial for tomorrow. And if you haven't watched the last Brian Kohberger hearing, you really ought to if you're going to watch the case this summer, because it was a really important hearing, and should be some information coming out in the next couple of weeks about that. And I'm missing something. Oh, Dr. Turk, remember him? We got all wrapped up in the Lori Hoare trial and kind of dropped the ball on Dr. Turk. They literally found him guilty of manslaughter, not murder. He's probably going to get maybe 10 or 15 years. And I know a lot of us were kind of leaning to not guilty even, right? So the fact that they were able to get him on manslaughter, I mean, he and his attorney felt like that was a success, but at least it wasn't murder. And I don't think it was murder. I think he was heavily manipulated, and he just, when she hit him across the head with that heavy glass, I think he just, reacted, and it was terrible thing that happened. So I think it's called accidental manslaughter is the charge. So He hasn't been sentenced yet, but the most that he can get is 20 years, and he's got 5 years of time already served. And he could do like 40 or 50% of his time. So he'll be out in 8 or 9 years, I think. So, yeah. He won't be forever, and it doesn't make it okay that she died. But I'm not sure that sacrificing him because of her bad behavior would be the right answer either. So really, really hard case, wasn't it? It was really a difficult case. Thank you guys for sharing Crush's channel. Please, please, please go over, subscribe. I'm going to try to get her to do the YouTube channel Mormon Murders, and then we can have more of these really interesting conversations. And yes, we need to power up for Lori's Snark Week #2. I'm sure there's going to be Easter eggs dropped everywhere this week. So definitely there. All right, Cresha, thank you so much for talking and teaching us all this good stuff. And what we need to do it. It'll be fun. All right, you guys, I got to go to bed because I got to make some money tomorrow, okay? Thank y'all for being here. Please subscribe. Please hit the thumbs up. And I think with that, we're just going to go out with The Shit Show.
Yeah.
Name of the song.
And I burnt that channel. Send it goes. Send it goes. Sinister grifters with a snake oil grin. Voracious virtue signalers cashing in. False PIs, they're fixing the game. Pointing fingers, but they're all the same. Innocent creators, moms with a cause. Digging through the chaos, exposing the flaws. We're hunting for clues, untwisting the lies. Who's driving this shit show straight to demise? Convertibles roaring, cliffs in sight. Like Thelma and Louise on a forever ride. They sail into YouTube fame, the crash is in sight. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels into dust. Or it'll burn their channels into dust. Dust. That'll burn their channels in the dust. Spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust. It's in the dust. That'll burn their channels. It's in the dust. That'll burn their channels. What's in the dust? The dust. The dust. The dust. The dust. The dust. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust.